Blue Heavens, the Power of Belief with Lokaous.
Hello, Blue Heavens. This is Lokaous, and it is great to be here. And I'm talking about limited beliefs. So, I have human in me because of Loki, and he's my aspect, my father, and Michelle. And when he met her, she was human, so there goes my human. But it keeps me very humble, and it keeps me connected to everybody in the realm. And I am Pleiadian as well, an Atlantean Pleiadian. And I've had many, many incarnations where I have lived, and I have learned, and very, very horrible lessons, but I would always doubt things. My limited belief was always, I had to have more. All my life, most of my life, I was a gambler. And I was a gambler, and I never had enough money. I never had enough. Or I did have enough, but I didn't have enough. And I was always killed for that, because I would feel bad. I would often steal, and not understanding the reflection of that. And I always felt lack of self-esteem, lack of anything. I always had that limited belief of there's lack. Even though I was a good gambler, of course I could go to a poker game, I'd win, but then something in me I would lose. And then I'm owing people money, and then I would die. And there are several incarnations I had where this is happening. And like me going through a lot of these lives over and over and over. And me asking when I leave, because you get to see where you went wrong and how would you like to improve, because you always try to perfect it. I would always say, well, what did they do wrong? Because I never saw I did anything wrong. What they did all wrong. And finally, I got to see, when I finally started waking up, I started to see things like I was reflecting the guilt, the lie, to die. As I felt the only thing to get out of this is to die. I'm lying to these people. I'm not going to pay them. And I'm cheating on most of these. So, of course. So I'm reflecting all that. And then I had another one with patience. I had no patience in some lives. And I had to learn patience. And so my limiting belief that kept it was a lack of. It started from the life when Loki left and he went to his cave. And he abandoned, I felt in that time as a child, he abandoned me and my mom. I felt I had to grow up. I was lack of a father. I had a mom who loved Loki. I'm watching her love Dad so much, but he's not there. And we didn't feel abundant. She never felt, but she always made me feel abundant because she loved me so much. And she always tried not to cry in front of me, and she'd always try to keep it up in front of me. But it was hard. So I got from that particular incarnation, we were alive for a very long time here. And, yes, my dad does come back. Of course he came back. And yes, I love my dad. I wanted to scream at him, and I wanted to chokehold him. Of course, I wanted all of these things. But see, my mom taught me forgiveness. And she taught me to forgive. I had to learn patience, and he was gone a very long time. I learned forgiveness. I had to do things without a father. She had to be mom and dad for me, but I carried my dad within me. And I would tap into the good parts of my dad, which, when he came back, I was able to bring that back to him, to remind him of the goodness. Did we ever have these talks where I wanted to chokehold him? Yes. But he wanted to hear it, so I gave that to him. So mine was always that lack of, and that's where it came from, that lack of. The lack of abundance, the lack of love, the lack of, but it was always back to the lack of was my limiting belief. So all of my incarnations dealt with that. And then once I fixed those things in these incarnations, and then it became the worthiness. I wasn't worthy of deserving things. When I was in the plague doctor, I was one with wore the mask, as well as my father. And different incarnations, but I wore that. And all I wanted to do was, it was a lack, I wanted to heal, but I still didn't love myself completely. I wanted to help everybody, but not really worrying about myself. There was a lot of people dying. I needed assistance, and they were abandoned somewhere. They're abandoned on this island, Paveria Island, they're abandoned. And I wore this mask to protect myself from getting the illness that they got. The doctors were very poor there, and they were kind of left to their own whatever, not knowing that they're going to die, and they'd separate them as they're doing this. And it was one of the most horrible things you can see when you love people so much. And as a doctor, it's fixated in you as a healer. I got to take care of it. You don't worry about yourself so much. And I forgot again, if I loved myself, I would take better care of myself. I didn't pay attention to they would always tell us, when you go here to the island, they're going to try to rip your mask off, because they don't know what they're doing, because it makes you kind of mad. And I was foolish, and I didn't turn around when I should have, and my mask got removed. It only takes a whiff of it to be in it was because it was in the air, and it only took a second for me to grab that. And once that happened and they've seen it, then you're stuck. And I became bitter, I became angry, and I knew I was going to die. And all I wanted to do was help. And I got to a lot of fights because I was angry at these people. Like, why would you do this? I can't help you now. And I let myself deteriorate. I wouldn't help anymore. That just stopped. But I learned the second time around I did it, to watch everything, set the boundaries, but I kept my distance that time. So I understood. I can love, but I gotta love myself and take care of myself before I can take care of anybody. Because I was pretty much worthless here, but I should have still helped until I died. But I didn't understand that. I was in self-pity and my ego, and it's their fault. And I didn't see that they just needed me to, they did it because I was one of the nicer doctors that just loved them. I tried to be there for all of them. And they just wanted that love back. But I was angry at them because that's what they did. So I took my ego. And all I saw was the big picture. I'm going to be dead. I can't help anymore. And I learned no. Because if I wanted to be, like, teach love, I had to love in any aspect. I had to. It was a limited belief. But I was taught that in that life. So those were my limited beliefs. And I learned through different lives, perfecting that, and I would see it, and I would see it, because you will eventually, you see it, and if you get deja vu, it's because you're being reminded. It's like a recorder, you're getting reminded. You know, your soul light is in different incarnations, and you are learning different things, or you might be on the same lesson, but when you increase knowledge in one life, you increase it in all. So as one life you're vibrating high, you are vibrating in all. And if you've got some kind of limiting belief that doesn't make sense for this realm, it's probably in another parallel life, because you are a multidimensional being. So you probably have something going on somewhere else that you need to address. And that is where shadow work comes in. That is where astral traveling and meditation comes in. So how did I work on my limited beliefs? So I had to take a step back. It was after every incarnation. I would just take a step back. And I would talk to the guidance that I had available, which is always Loki, and I would have Marcus, and they would talk to me. And they would remind me of what was I doing. And my Pleiadian teachers as well would remind me, what are you here to learn? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What is the perfection? What are you trying to teach our planet? And why don't you feel you're grabbing it? And I was always reminded of that. When I would put my ego in the way, because when you're freshly there, your ego still is reminding you of all this stuff. And they would tell me, take a step back, that's not you anymore. You're not this anymore. You are a light. When I would see myself for what it was, then I saw the true picture of the perfection. Everything made sense until you do this again. And then the veil is back, and you forget all of that. But then you do it again with the knowledge that's instilled. Because you will remember, because you've got a very smart light, very intelligent light. That's where meditation comes in. I had lives where I was in like a Buddhist temple, and I learned through these. And these, so they're different lives, expanded these other lives that I had. But I've been a Buddha, I've been a guru, I've done all of these things. And through that, I was able to go through all these other lives and just boom, 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 because the light was so strong. As there are like-minded beings that wanted the assistance for me to get there as well. Because when you perfect it in one incarnation, then the next incarnation, you don't start over, you just start wherever you ended it at. So if you did a lot of good karma, but there's a few low problem areas, it'll start you right where you stopped here, and it'll get you back. So I was always, in these other lives, I'd be put back to something different. So it'd be much, much better, and much, much better, because it would just progress, and progress, and progress. So I learned it, but mine was always a lack of, and not feeling worthy, and not feeling love, and that came from that life when Loki, he had to find himself, and I don't blame him for that. He had to find who he was. And I've often done the cave things as well. And the only life I maybe took the accountability of everything was the life when he left, and I had this Michelle and me. And that was the life that she was my guru. She was the one that taught me everything. She was everything to me. And she would sit me down even as a child and she'd teach me everything. The stuff that she learned from her wolf protector, Loki. Because I barely, when he left, I was like 3 or 4. Barely remembered my father. And she had pictures. And I would see these pictures. And I didn't know who the reflection was. And as I grew older, I'd see the reflection get stronger and I'd look like him. I'd often hit the mirror because I didn't want to see my reflection looking like the person that I felt abandoned me. And she reminded me he never abandoned you. She had to teach me forgiveness. She had to teach me to surrender to something higher, which is what kept her going. She said, I can feel him. Just if you close your eyes, you could feel him too. We're all energy. And she said, he is a love light. And all you got to do, she said, if you want your dad to come home, that is ask the great divine to bring him home. Let's ask Shiva. Let's get him home. And when he came back, that's what he said. He said he always felt the urge to come home. But he had a lot to fix here. And he felt that because Loki is Shiva. So she knew that. Of course, my mom knew this, of course. And when I closed my eyes, I'd cry, I'd weep. And as a grown man, I'm still... And all what I want to do when I see Loki, I just want to hit him. My limited belief was he lacked me of something. He lacked me a dad. He lacked me. Mom, but... It was a story I kept expanding because I'd see Michelle cry. Of course she's going to cry. She was emotional. She missed her husband. He had raised her. And, and he had raised her as a wolf. And then he married her. And then the only thing she ever wanted was a child, a human child, which was me. And he couldn't do children. He couldn't have that. It was taken from him a long time ago, that ability. But he found an aspect, the one he loved the most, which is Atlantean. He tapped in. I was loved from the very beginning. But yet I didn't know that. She would tell me that from the very beginning. She'd say, he loved you. He might tease about that. He might tease these stories, because she would tell me some of the things he'd say. And I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? And she said, that's your father. He's sarcastic. And he covers it up because he's a lot of pain. But I know there's love in him. And when he came back, and I seen the man I wanted to yell at and scream. My limited belief came back stronger than ever and was a trigger, and I wanted to cry. I started just shaking as I heard Michelle run to him. Of course, she's running to him, and I just sat where I was sitting, and I got mad and madder, and I wanted to blow at this man that I felt ruined everything in my life, and my limited belief was I'm going to let him have it because he lacked my life of something. And then I heard a voice that said to me, did you really lack anything? Did you really suffer? And I stepped back. And all this is happening while he's hugging her. And I took a step back. I closed my eyes. And I realized that that limited belief I had a lack of. And I'm not worthy. What did I do to make him leave? It took practically minutes for me to see. I allowed my own bullshit to get in the way. I allowed that emotion of lack of overwhelm me. There's a belief that kept playing in my head over and over and over. Michelle did not suffer. She didn't suffer. She just had hope he was going to come home. She knew he was going to come home. I lost that hope, but maybe I didn't lose that hope. I was too busy living in my story and my own illusion that he was a horrible father. But yet, he left me a lot of goodness because I was his aspect. And I surrendered that anger. I said, and I looked, before I even saw him, I closed my eyes and I said, I forgive you, Dad. I forgive you for everything. I forgive you. And I asked the great divine, take the pain from me and allow me to say exactly what you would say. Help me through this. I had to trust the divine, surrender my heart, forgive my father before I could even walk out to see him. And I didn't even know how I was going to react when I seen the man that I felt abandoned me. I walked out, and the first thing I see is a man crying when he saw me. He didn't expect to see me, a grown man. He still thought of the little boy he left, and he started crying. He went to his knees, and he held onto my legs, and he said, I'm so sorry. I had a lot wrong with me, and I had to fix it. He said, will you ever forgive me? He said, I don't blame you if you want to hit me right now. He said, I would deserve all your anger thrown. He was ready for my anger. He was ready for me to blow at him. He was ready for me to have had him have it. And I didn't do that. Because I forgave him already a few minutes prior before I seen him. And I went down my knees and I said, Dad, I forgive you. I forgave you I said a few minutes ago, I forgave you. I said, because God knows what I wanted to do, but I forgive you. And you know how powerful that word is, forgiveness? I surrendered it to something higher than me that I trusted in that split second. It was a higher part of myself that just knew. And I thought, I've often thought, and I know that's true, that the higher me was telling this version of me, you need to forgive him, because you want to keep reliving that. You want to make this man that loves you hurt more and make him retreat more. And he's not going to heal if you shadow all of this back to him. He just wants your forgiveness. And I seen him. I went to my knees as well. I would not let my dad bow to me. I would not let my dad feel he was less than to me, because of my lack of my limited beliefs that I had in here. And I looked at the man in the mirror I've seen constantly back to myself, that reflected back to myself. And I seen that man look back at me. And I seen the reflection of myself. He looked like the shadow of what I was giving him. He was skinny, he was bruised up, and he resembled what I felt about him. He reflected my pain back. And I didn't want him to ever reflect that back. So I gave him hope to reflect me back to him. I reminded him love, and I said, Dad, you never abandoned me. I love you. I said, I thought this for a long time, but I said, look at me now. You came back. I said, that says a lot that you came back, Dad. And he saw how strong Michelle was. She took care of me, and I grew up to be strong in my own right. But all of it was reminders of my father. I allowed my anger to rule. I allowed my frustration, my triggers, to dominate everything. And I had a great mom who loved me, that trusted the divine. She prayed to the divine all the time. She made her own rosary. She made her own necklace to pray, to bring her husband home. Bring back my wolf. Bring him back. His wolf family would always check on her to make sure she was okay. And they'd always check on me as well. He often teases I can't tell, but my father was there to teach me that. And I think I was so angry at him I never wanted to learn these things. But forgiveness is a big thing. So my limited belief is always that. But as soon as I forgave my father in that particular incarnation, I forgave him, and I fixed that with him, because I don't know how many lives I probably did not forgiving him and made him feel worse. He knows that, but he won't tell me, because he loves me. He won't tell me. And neither was she. And I don't want to know, honestly. This is one thing I don't want to know. I don't even want to know if I'd badgered my own father. And I probably did. It fixed a lot of my other lives. The gambling. It fixed that stuff. And it fixed all that feelings of lack of. That is why I'm so passionate about teaching all like beliefs and limited beliefs in your ego and triggers, because of all of the lives that I have had and all of the blame I had put on other people for the things that I did. Because I wouldn't take responsibility, and I wouldn't take accountability for my own stuff. It was everybody else's fault and not mine. But mine was always that lack of mentality and no self-worth. And that was always mine. But lack of mentality was always my limiting beliefs. I didn't deserve money. I didn't deserve to keep money. I didn't deserve love, and I should not keep that. My own father abandoned me, so what good am I anyway? But that was, in these other lives, I didn't know why I felt abandoned. Why did I feel like I had to give something up? Why did I always feel like I didn't have enough? Why did men always make me angry, that I just wanted to chokehold, because I didn't understand it came from that life, from my father. But as I fixed that with my father there, I fixed it in the other lives. And I grew to have where I am today. I got the deity and I got the human. But I had to earn that. I no longer incarnate. I don't have to incarnate. This is how I do things. So I can come in as her father, her brother, whoever she needs me as, and whatever aspect she needs me. Because I've been her father, her brother, I have been all of these in her life. And same with Angela. They've been my child. They have been all kinds for me in different incarnations. So they see me as all of that. So what is your limited belief? And where is it stopping you? Is it this incarnation, or is it another parallel life right now it's happening in? The best thing is to meditate. Take a long look at it. Ask for your spiritual team to help you analyze it. If you need any assistance, comment below or get a hold of Blue Heavens, and we will happy to assist you. That's what Loki does. That's what Archangel Lucifer does. They help you find the shadow, what life, and address it, and you go forth. So Find your limited belief. Find out where you can do that. I told you my story so that you may learn. And if I have to look a little like an asshole for you to see these things, I'd rather that and be a little vulnerable to you so that you go forward. And forgiveness is key. Surrender is key. Trust your divine team. Trust your planetary team. They love you. And you're always getting upgrades. And you're always getting that love. And they're always giving you signs. And I got so many signs. When I look back at my different lives and I see the signs that were given to me, I didn't notice it. I didn't think I was deserving of signs. I would just dismiss it as scientific. Try to be logical about it. But I want to give this to you as a gift. Check out your forgiveness. Forgive these areas that need to be forgiven. Whatever your limited belief is, look back. Where's the story? And you'll change it. And as minute I change all that, my father improved. Loki even says that's one of his best lives after we improved. He came back stronger than ever. When he realized that I didn't give up on my father. It took me probably many times to perfect that, I'm sure. But the higher me reminded me of the bigger purpose. And I'm glad I listened because I got a great dad. And I'm glad I listened because he's so wonderful and he teaches all of you. And I'm glad. So please, if there's anybody in your life that you're angry, forgive. You hold on to all that hatred, it doesn't get you anywhere. Because how many lives will you have to forgive till you just do it? So best to just do it here. Whatever happened, just forgive and let go. Deal with the pain, of course, because the pain is there. But let your pain go completely in that. Many times when my dad was home, I cried. I would cry. I'd go somewhere and I'd cry and I'd scream, but I'd never do it in front of my father. I'd never in front of Michelle. But Michelle knew I was doing it. But she often see me in that state. But I was releasing it, and she said, release all of it. And she would put me in, like, we'd have a fire, and he'd be sleeping, and she would let me release the screaming and the pain. I'd cry onto her, begging to die, because it just hurt so bad. And just releasing all of the childhood, what I thought. But the more I released, the more I loved, the better I felt. And she was there with me the whole time, along with the guidance of my planetary team and my spiritual guidance, which was my higher self and Marcus and Archangel Lucifer. Who knew that I was so loved? I didn't even know. I thought I was alone, but I was never alone. I was never alone. I thought I was alone. And Angie, you were there too. You were a light as well around me. If you wondered where your part was, you were that light. As well, that voice that I heard tell me to stop and forgive was also your voice, along with the higher part of me to say, hey, you need to wake up and don't do this to your father. Because how many times had I done this before when I yelled at him unnecessarily? So I'd like to thank Angie for that one as well, because I know you were one of the voices along with my higher self. So I hope you got something from this message. And check your limited beliefs. Check it. See where you're at. Allow your pain out. Forgive and surrender. Meditation. Write it down. Talk to a trusted advisor. Go to a counselor if you need to. A trusted, whoever you trust. If there is a teacher you trust, or YouTube, whatever, or one of us, you tell us your story. If there's one of us that you relate to the most, we will understand you. We will help you through it. There's many aspects in Lazarus, and there's one that you relate to. Comment below, or go to Facebook and go to Blue Heavens, and we will address you there. And we have no problem. She channels 24/7 because she said she's not going to miss anybody. If anybody, she doesn't want to sit, and she said trying to get back into the state of channel. She said, I'll just stay like that. So if somebody needs me anytime, I can able to reach out to this person and make sure they never have to feel. Because me and Michelle are like that. We're like this. I'm literally like that with her. So she always often says we, and it's always we this and we that, because we are a we. So she makes sure that she can access me immediately. And I'm always there to help. So if you relate to one of us, please reach out to the one that you reach out to. It does not matter to us which one you reach out to. We have different vibrations for a reason. Or to Lazarus, that you relate to one or all of them, and you can start to heal and reach out to the vibration that helps you the most. So my name is Lokaous. I am humbled to be here, and I'm happy to serve however I can serve. I've been a counselor, I've been a doctor, I've been a teacher, I've been everything. And every life, it's been so wonderful to be a servant, to help serve however I can with my heart. And I'm here today to serve along with my heart once again. And I always will be. So stay tuned for more Blue Heavens things. Make sure you check out Angela's things on Facebook and YouTube and check these things out. She's got many wonderful tips on overthinking, your ego. If you got something, she's got it there. And they're wonderful 5 tips to check out. And check out the other limiting beliefs. We already have Angie's got one. Michelle has one. We got Cosmo has one. Loki has one. And now I have one. And then Marcus is going to have one, and so will Archangel Lucifer. And you will get that part of the aspect as well. So much love from all the Blue Heavens. You are so loved by the Creator of the universe unconditionally. You're never alone. You always have somebody that loves you so much. And you always got your planetary with you. Always. Wherever that is. So many blessings. Much love from Lokaous, from Blue Heavens.
Be kind, be brave, be hopeful, be love. You are loved. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, check us out on our social media, Blue Heavens 3, or check us out at blueheavens.net.